We are live.
Let's go.
From the sold-out studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
We are alive.
And well.
We're second week of a three-week run of shows. I can't even talk. It's been so much.
It's been a lot.
It has. We had
Every weekend.
Industry Summit. Then Jimmy was at the Industry Summit. We had people in town for it. Jimmy spoke at it. Did a fantastic job, I heard. And then after that, we had Las Vegas Card Show. And then this week, we will be on to Del Mar. We will be going to Del Mar for the Union Marketplace Show. We're looking forward to this. San Diego is always fun. Union Marketplace Show. Del Mar's beautiful. Weather, perfect time of year for it. And we will be hosting Trade Night on Friday, October 7th. It's actually Saturday. I lied. Saturday the 7th. I forgot to fix that one. I fixed all the other ones except for that one.
As long as everybody knows.
Hey, listen, Trade Night at Del Mar. Come out. It's at the Hilton, but we will be there all weekend. Should be a lot of fun. A lot of little buzz about it. And I want to kick off the show today to talk a little bit about the sports card industry and specifically about the show space. That you're kind of getting reports because, let's be honest, the Industry Summit was incredibly down. And in fact, after now kind of looking at some of the other takes in the hobby, we're seeing people actually talking about the fact that there was just really no buzz about it to start with, that the card show portion just didn't have any buzz. And then you had, and we kind of worried about it a little bit, we had the Las Vegas Card Show back to it, which the presentation of Las Vegas Card Show was great. Dakota and his team did an amazing job, floor laid out nicely, good stage, fun environment, very well, easy to navigate. The whole concept, the location's amazing. I mean, I can go down the list. But at the end of the day, the numbers weren't what they wanted it to be. The numbers weren't what, as dealers, we would like to have been. And I believe that there's a combination of cannibalism of the marketplace of smaller shows popping up, butting into some of the bigger shows, and causing some issues. Where does that take us? Because I remember, and you probably do too, like in the early 90s, I remember like card show almost every weekend.
The showboat.
You know, like almost every single weekend.
The showboat.
All the time.
There,
right?
Yeah, all of us were in this town in the 90s and went to all those card shows.
Yeah.
Every weekend.
And that was nationwide. I was in San Diego at the time. In San Diego, there was a card show at the Mission, a card show, every single weekend there was something going on.
Galleria Mall, remember those?
Yes,
yeah.
Right in the middle of the mall as you walk down the shop.
Yeah.
So now we're at this space where everybody's popping up a show. It's almost becoming like a small show is a cash grab. They're just not even looking at dates, not even looking at other things that are going on, not even planning out to how these things work. How is that going to affect our marketplace moving forward over the next few months? Is it something as dealers? Are we going to tear back what we attend?
We have to.
Right.
And as business owners and everything, like for me going into, and I'll be candid, going into the Industry Summit, we got 8 tables there at $250 a pop. Guess how much money that is?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Almost $2,000 for just tables. Just setting up, just being there, it's $2,000. That's not including all of our time for all the people that we have going down to these shows and doing it. So before anything's said and done, we're into it for $2,000. Now Las Vegas Card Show is a little differently. We got a sponsorship. We did a couple different things, so we even spent more money to that. I was talking to the guys over the weekend. We spent over $70,000 to go to Nationals this year. Yeah, that's without selling one card.
Without one card.
Without one card being sold, nothing all, $70,000 to get all of our stuff, supplies, people, hotel, food, airlines, $70,000. It adds up quickly, and business owners, card shops, people are going to have to start choosing and picking and choosing more wisely on what they're going to do. Any local show for us is a no-brainer. We'll be at it. We're going to set up. To set up at what capacity, though, to buy out 10 tables at a card show is not going to happen anymore.
You know, and I said it too that, and I'll be candid, like I didn't walk the floor that much at this show, and that's because the business for what I do with Game Day was in the booth. So it was more about focusing that in the events and all that stuff. But the walking around that I did, vendors that I didn't really know very well, the prices on their stuff in the cases were astronomical.
Yeah.
Like, and it blew me away that on top of the fact that we had a lighter attendance, we would have liked to. Then you don't have guys wanting to spend because there's 15 different comp sources for them, right? Everybody's looking at it. I feel like what needed to be discussed at the industry summit was how to get the marketplace to really work together again.
Almost like it was priced not to sell. Like almost like it was a museum. Like
100%.
Come here and check out all my stuff.
And so let me give you just like a little story of what went down this weekend. So everybody knows I buy. We buy at almost every card show we go to. We buy, sometimes we buy heavier, sometimes we buy lighter, but we're always buying. So one of our guys, Hoodie, runs out to the floor and he finds a bunch of slabs at this guy's table and he's like, hey, there's some good stuff over here. You should come check it out. I go, okay. So I walk over, I look through the stuff, and I ask the dealer, I go, hey, if I buy a bunch from you, like, 25, 30 cards, can we work out a deal, at like 80% or something? He goes, yeah, I don't want to do like 70, but I'll do like 80%. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go through, I spend about 35 to 40 minutes now going through all of his cards, his slabs, his cards, pulling out everything. And I give it to Hoodie. He goes through and prices it up. He goes, hey, the whole thing comes out to $2,500 or $2,200. He goes, 80% of that is whatever. I think it was $1,700 or $1,770, I think. And he goes, would you do $1,700? The guy's like, oh man, no, I don't want to do 80%. I'll do like 90%.
After you just spent the time.
After I just spent 35 minutes going through all of his cards, stacking them up, going through it. And then so Hoodie then does the math on his. He goes, all right, 90%'s 1960. And he goes, well, you do 1900. The guy goes, no, I'll do 2000. So I just stopped and I go, wait. So you went from saying you would do 80%, then you said you would do 90%. Now you want 92.35%. It's like, what the? I just told the guy, never mind. I'm never doing business with you again.
And again, the whole concept there is, if you're not willing to discount, we understand that, and we'll champion that in a way of guys coming off of prices on cards too quickly. Mm-hmm. But there's a point in the marketplace where you move the stuff, you say, yeah, I'll do a deal in bulk, and then if you say you're going to do it, have some flexibility.
But the thing is with dealing in bulk, I'm not comping out every single one of your cards.
You're not.
I'm putting 3 stacks of cards in front of you saying, I'm going to pay your price, but I want to pay 80% of your price.
Of your price.
So knowing everybody that's worked a card show or in a card shop anywhere in the world, you do comp plus a little bit. Because at everything they're going to negotiate.
Right.
So your prices are already higher. I'm not comping one card.
Right. And you're not comping it. And I've seen it because we'll get lots that you buy and I'll go through and I'll be like, oh, well, this card was priced $25 higher than it's supposed to. And then we find a card that every once in a while is priced $30 less. So it balances itself over the game.
But the fact that you're going off of his prices,
right?
Not the comp prices, you're going off of his prices. So it's like you're setting the bar, and we're asking for a little bit. I wouldn't have done it either. I would have been like, just forget it.
I think the marketplace needs a reset with, and I keep saying this. I said it 1,000 times at the summit. This is the Wild West, and actually, I'd like to call it the Wild West, but I think now it's more prehistoric. That the way the industry thinks. And it goes from people not wanting to get in and understand the whole change of the economy to even understanding how the marketplace has changed to online and how to navigate it. People don't want to do that, and they still want peer-to-peer. And I even use the discussion of every time you pay someone, you go to pay them, Venmo, and immediately you're paying fees or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, if you were being, fair in your marketplace, you probably wouldn't worry about that so much. But you worry about it because you got to nickel and dime it because everyone's nickel and diming everyone every step along the way.
It's just surprising that you go to a show like that and you're not interested in selling. Like, what's the point of going?
And I think that's why as Game Day we do so well. Like, it was a slow show. It was. But we did a shit ton of sales in the first 2 days.
Yeah.
And the reason why we did a ton of sales is because we're dealers. We get it. We understand, hey, if you buy from us today, we're building this relationship. And how many of those guys that came to our booth to deal with us at every single show we go
to? That's exactly it. And me personally, out of my cards that were at the show, because Jimmy's amazing that he lets us set up our cards, I came off the price on one of my cards because I know it's good for the business for us to build that relationship. And I would rather sell that card to him than hold off and make a couple $100 more down the road.
Right.
I'd rather build a relationship.
Plus, you get the cash so you can reinvest it in different cards and different stuff
100%.
And keep moving.
Exactly.
And don't get me wrong, though. Steve says he gets to put the cards in the case. Well, they do work for free. None of the guys get paid when they go to the shows. And everybody asks me, "Oh, you got a lot of guys here." I'm like,
I don't want to be there.
I don't pay any of the guys at any of the shows.
Yeah.
But when we do go to Del Mar, I take care of their rooms, I take care of their food, I take care of their flights. So when we do go to these things out of state or out of our city, I take care of all the travel arrangements. But when we are in city, like Industry Summit and Las Vegas Card Show, the guys work for free. Why? Because they get an opportunity to sell their cards, and they know they're going to get taken care of throughout the year.
Right. And the thing is I think that because of that concept, it also makes us all want to have that same mentality towards the guy that comes up and sells stuff and not sit on it and, roughshod him so much. Doesn't make sense. So we do it, and it'll literally, you'll come in you do a bulk deal with us. It'll be 5 stacks. It'll be 5 different, configurations, how it works out. We work the deal out and it gets done. It just blows my mind that when you get to a show like that, we have found a way to still be able to be successful with the show and make the show work for us. Whereas on the flip side, you have guys that aren't selling their slabs because they just don't want to put down that effort into it. And I think we're going to see more of this. And that's why I kind of wanted to mention is that we are going to see more of this, that the small show on top of small show butting up, or the small show trying to come into the space on a bigger show, those are never going to help. And
so what's happening right now, especially in the country with rising gas prices, rising food prices, rising everything across the board. We all have kids, we have life. It's expensive. It's more expensive than it's ever been. Yep. And that what it does is it takes that family, and we saw it this weekend. There wasn't a lot of families there. Why wasn't the whole family going out to the card show and spending money? Guess what? Prices are up across the board, and you only have a certain amount of money to spend a month on the hobby or investing in cards. So what are they going to do? You're going to pick one show, or you're going to pick one day of one show and go to that for the month. You can't have show after show after show after show. Even if they're small shows, you're still taking 50 people that could be at this show and putting it in. So everybody's on this money grab of, I want to run a show. I want to do a show in Vegas. I want to do this. Well, guess what? You better pick and choose your times wisely, because if you don't, you're going to end up with the show like we had at Industry Summit where nobody was at.
100%.
Right. If you're the third weekend in a row and you just happen to pick those dates, and it's like they're already burned out from the first 2.
Well, yeah, and you just have to, it's got to be a better cooperative play. And I've seen this in the past where you had shows that, unfortunately, they were trying to cannibalize one another, take advantage of their market, come in before them so they get, these things. And just at the end of the day, it never seems to work out in the favor of the hobby. And that's whether the world I came from in toys and pop culture, over to sports, to even in B2B conferences, that if the B2B conferences eat each other up with the same type of content, at the end of the day, it doesn't work. Vegas, we're a city that knows how to do this. So, hopefully that the discussions that were had, the comments that are made, and the feedback that's out there, I hope that the people involved with organizing these things really made sense. I had some private conversations with some people that I hope my suggestions went to heart, because I want to see it continue, build, and grow. And I'm not just talking about here, because I think it's everywhere.
No, and the thing is, they should be asking guys like you and guys like me. Guess what? Why? Because we're in this every single day. Mm-hmm. We travel to every one of these shows. There's not a show on the West Coast that we miss.
No.
We go to every show on the West Coast. We go to every show in Las Vegas. We're already starting to branch out to do every show throughout the country. So we know what's going on. We see what's going on. Ask us what a little bit of insight on what we see happening. And there's other guys just like us, because we see the same dealers.
We do.
Almost at every show.
100%. You see the guys that are out working and grinding and doing it, but it's got to make sense for everybody here, otherwise it gets tough. It is time for Over Under. This is where we overreact and talk about the underwhelming weekend of the NFL. And this weekend, the NFL, first off, got kind of a weird start to the weekend. The Thursday night game.
By weird, you mean terrible?
Yeah, the Thursday night game was so unwatchable that literally, we had...
It was everybody.
No. We were actually at an event, and, like, people were okay turning it off in the third quarter and being like, whatever. Like, they just didn't care.
Yeah, and usually, what Steve is talking about, we were at a bar,
yeah.
restaurant. We're at a bar restaurant with 35 TVs all around, and they literally turned it off every TV and put the baseball game on.
Yeah.
Nah.
Because nobody cared.
No one wanted to watch it. There was no interest in it. There's some really bad football being played this year. There's some really good football being played this year. Yeah. Some of the bad, well, that happened to change a little bit today. Matt Rhule was officially removed from his position as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
Who's happier than him right now, though?
Well, you are, because I was wrong that Hackett wasn't the first to go. And how Hackett still has a job,
just because
and this guy does.
It's only because it's his first year.
If this was his second year, he's gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah, week
it's
one.
His first year, they're giving him a little bit of time.
To prove he's the worst coach ever in NFL?
To right the ship.
Yep.
Guys, I don't know. But Matt Rhule definitely couldn't figure out. It's got two quarterbacks in the building, couldn't figure either of them out. Hurt his first, his quarterback pick from the season got hurt. There's been a lot of injury issues with that team, and a lot of times that's the coach brings in the supporting cast.
Yeah, I feel terrible for him because he's going to get paid for the rest of the year for not doing anything, right? Because Carolina's going to pay him for the rest of the season. Then he's probably going to have at least 6 or 7 college teams coming after him, just like they did last year. So yeah, I feel terrible for him. Like I feel so bad for this guy.
I feel even worse because his contract is apparently one of those contracts that's written that if he doesn't take another job, it's fully guaranteed.
Correct.
And then if he does take another job and say they pay him $6 million and he was due $11 million, they still pay him $5 million and pay him the difference.
So this is we just saw Tom Brady get divorced for going and back to play football. Mm-hmm. Rhule's going to get divorced too. If he does not stay home next year and collect that paycheck from the NFL, and he goes right back into coaching, his wife's going to leave him. She's going to be like, "What? You hate us? You hate me and the kids? You're getting paid $42 million to sit at home with me. What would your wife say to you?
Oh, I don't.
You wouldn't even question it,
I don't think I would want to go. I'd be like, I would rather sit at home and get paid that money.
I think all of us.
100%.
Oh wait, I get to spend extra time at home and get paid $40 million. I think every one of us being dads and fathers is like, yes, sign me up.
I want to travel to places that I want to go to and not have to worry about going to work.
Yeah,
I would visit.
You think about the 3-year tenure there, 2.5-year tenure. It never really got any action.
What college coach works? Look back and tell me which college coach comes from college directly from an NFL or a college head coaching job to an NFL coaching job. And it works.
Pete Carroll was the only one, and he had to do it twice.
But it didn't work the first time.
Right.
So, and he got a very good situation that he went into a rookie quarterback that wasn't supposed to be a starter and got lucky that Russell Wilson was who he was.
Yeah, he's kind of kooky, too. I don't know if I would be that kind of guy. But you talk about, like, Nick Saban failed at it. You talk about Steve Spurrier failed at it. Chip Kelly failed at it. You have all these guys, and now Matt Rhule.
Harbaugh's probably the only one that I could think of. He went back to college because he didn't like the NFL.
Yeah, but he didn't win a Super Bowl. He took his team to the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, and they lost.
But look who you have now. You have Arizona's coach.
Making incredibly bad 2 minutes. How? Like I'm lost for words. You have an incredibly creative quarterback, and how is that your 2 minutes that you spend clock management? Which, by the way, is. If I was to say, if you wanted my overreaction for the week, it's that these NFL coaches today, outside of the handful of them that have done it, the Mike Tomlins, the Belichicks, right, these guys that have been around, outside of them, nobody can manage the clock, and nobody knows how to run a fourth down situation that calls for either a punt or kick. Unbelievable.
But they all pay coaches for that exact thing. Every NFL team has a coach that is designated to clock management. You worry about the clock management the last 5 minutes of every quarter.
Yep.
You let us know what's going on, because guess what? There's a lot of shit going on in that coach's mind during the game, and they lose track of the clock, they lose track of what's going on, but they all pay coaches to handle that situation.
And all of them are getting it wrong. That's what's crazy. I'm sitting there, I'm a Chargers fan, lost my mind when I saw, because I was only watching like the feed, and I'm losing my mind when I saw they lined up to go for it on fourth down. What are you doing? You have a solid defense with arguably 2 of the 10 to 15 best defensive players in the game.
And first off, you got Jacoby Brissett on the other side who
Right.
can't throw.
So you're not worried about
Cleveland
him
going to win the ball?
You're not worried about him beating you deep. So what are you doing? So that's one. Then I go to the Seattle game, and now we're talking about a coach that's been around, a guy that I just mentioned has done fairly well. And it didn't hurt them, but I don't think people understood the leverage of the situation. The play clock was down to 2 seconds, and they called their final timeout to stop the clock. They let 28 seconds run off the clock to call that timeout. Yeah. To me, it's just...
Why do you wait all that time?
Then why even call it?
Right.
Let them get the 5-yard penalty, which is what they were going to take anyways, and then at least save yourself one more stoppage.
This is the one that really irks me a lot of the time for these coaches. They don't call their timeout until after the 2-minute warning.
Right.
It's like they wait until after the 2-minute warning, and then they're like, all right, we got 3 timeouts, let's call them all on defense. Like, what the hell are you doing? Call them before the 2-minute warning to leave more time on the freaking clock. Like,
exactly.
Why?
There was one play last night. It was the Eagles-Cardinals game, too, and it wasn't even the coach's fault. The coach was actually pissed that Kyler Murray did that. I don't know if you saw the end of that game or not, but at the end, when Arizona was marching down to try to get in field goal range,
spike.
Yeah, and so he gives himself up on the slide, a half a yard short, which, I mean, at that point, you got to know where the sticks are. You got to get that first down. So instead of it being, 3rd and 1 or 3rd and short or whatever, he ends up spiking the ball. Now it's 4th and 1. Now he has to go for the kick. And the dude that they showed missing those field goals, Amendola, all pregame, gets up there and misses it wide right like he did in pregame. So he didn't fix anything from the pregame either. So they end up losing the game because of that. All because of that. The time management and the clock management and not knowing where you're at.
They had no idea how to run the 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Then they're blowing up on the sideline as seconds tick off the clock.
Yeah.
You can see them yelling at Kyler Murray. He's got the mic to the headset, and he's yelling at him, spike the ball, get it off, spike the ball, and just nothing. Like, that's coaching. I get that the player's a rogue, okay? Like, Kyler Murray is beating to his own drum. I'm going to say it now because a lot of the analysts don't want to say it. That whole talk about that clause in his contract was a real thing. There was no BS there. There's 100% fire in the clubhouse right now.
He's just mad that he got out.
Right. This is ridiculous that this guy is doing it. I get that he's a star. I can't call him a superstar when he does stuff like that and acts like that and does these things. It's horrible mistakes. It's poor management. But it's on the coach. You know what? Take a quarter away from him when you're down in a game.
Yeah.
You want to really push it? Take him off the field. You know what? Change that demeanor. Handle your team, and you're not handling your team.
Right.
And that's what they said with Matt Rhule was Matt Rhule lost the respect that there was no effort put into the game on Sunday, and that's ultimately why he was let go of. And with that said, then you start to have the things fall in place, right? Now you've got Baker Mayfield's hurt for a couple weeks, and then you got Christian McCaffrey talk out there, and the talk today is that the Bills have inquired about CMC. And there's a little banter back and forth because no one can make up their mind. Because apparently Tom Pelissero put out a tweet saying, no, they're happy with the situation. They're keeping him. They're paying him. They're doing all this stuff. Then you turn around, you got Jason LaCamfora who comes out and says, no, this is a real thing. And actually Robbie Anderson's also on the block too.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that either of these guys are on the block. Christian McCaffrey's probably asked for it, I'm guessing. And I know the dude hasn't been healthy, but let's talk about the line he's played for, right? he's taken a lot of hits over his career so far. And if he goes to a place that actually can protect their quarterback and can actually push the line a little bit to run.
Oh my God, can you see him on that Buffalo team?
That's what I'm saying. Can you see him? I don't think that Devin Singletary is a bad running back, and they don't run the ball very much. Like, their best running back is Josh Allen.
Right.
But adding him to that mix would be phenomenal. And I know that McCaffrey would want that. Like, why would you not want to go to Buffalo with the team they have right now? Like, they're the Super Bowl favorites. We've all said they're the Super Bowl favorites all along, even if we picked bad teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
We've all stuck with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC. They're fun to watch, and why would you not want to go there? Like, I don't understand. Like, I think it's a win for everybody because clearly Carolina's in a rebuild. They have a losing record. They just got rid of their coach. They don't really have anything going for them because even if Baker comes back, like, you have Baker
I actually think,
and
this is probably a little premature, but I would say even if Baker comes back, if Baker plays next year with them, it'll be very limited, and Matt Corral will be next up. And
I think they're going to be drafting in the top 5, and they will be taking a quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate because I think we thought the team could be a little bit better than that. None of us picked them to be very good, but I don't think that we thought that they would be in shambles. Like, the team's kind of in shambles. It's not ran.
The team is in shambles, yeah, and they know, and that just goes back to the whole not signing your running backs to a large contract. You know what I mean? You don't give them an extension. Happened with Zeke, and he hasn't been the same player. Henry has worked out okay, even though he's only had like one big game this year so far. CMC can't stay healthy. It's just that's why they don't. That's why I don't want to shit on running backs because I like the running back position, but that's why these teams don't pay running backs.
We'll talk. What was really
give them extensions.
What was really good is the team that we just mentioned, the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills defense absolutely shut down Kenny Pickett, and the Steelers. They looked, they weren't really able to move the ball very well at all. But
going back to what I said 2 weeks ago, bet against the Steelers every week from here on out.
Yeah,
that team is not good. They're not going to be good with Pickett. I do like the little connection between Pickett and Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be pretty good in the future. I think that he loves him. He throws the ball to him a lot. And the guy's an absolute stud at wide receiver.
Well, absolutely he is. In fact, he made this catch.
Right. There's a lot of good teams when you see this catch. That's... that's going to be. I think you got a hand and the foot, everything. But I think it's a catch. Okay, look at that. This is where I talked about earlier. Rare athleticism.
That's a catch.
He's got elite catch rate.
Yeah, and you see him look to the line and pull his hand back just a little bit to make sure it goes inbound.
He is incredibly aware. There was a throw, I recall a throw, it was actually the week before when the back shoulder throw, only where you could be, and to turn and have the awareness to get both hands on the ball, pull it in, knowing he's getting hit from behind, and have his feet in the right place. You don't want to make the comparisons all the time. I'm definitely going to say he is Calvin Johnson 2.0. He looks every bit of it. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. He blows people up off the line. That's the other thing that you don't see. Unless you sit and actually watch these things, he's getting 7 or 8 yards of separation now. It's not 5 or 4. And it's because he is blowing up defensive backs, and they're tired of getting hit by this guy.
It's unfortunate, too, because they said Chase Claypool would be the odd man out there, which he clearly is the odd man out. But the Steelers' recruiting of wide receivers is phenomenal. Like, I feel like they hit every single time.
Deontay Johnson's a nice receiver with good hands.
He's a great receiver, and that's why I think that, like you said, like, bet against the Steelers. But, like, they have a good offense. Their offensive line isn't very good, and their defense isn't what it used to be. But when you look at the pieces they have a great tight end with Freiermuth.
Yep.
They have good receivers. They have Najee Harris at running back. And even Jalen Warren as the backup has been playing well. So they have pieces there to be good, but they're just not. So is there going to be time for a coaching change after the end of this year? If the Steelers have like a terrible, terrible record, is it finally time to get rid of Tomlin? Or
I think his time's up. I think he needs to move on. I think he should probably go to Carolina and coach in Carolina.
Right.
Yeah, he'll get another coach job if he's let go. It's not going to be his last coaching job. But
he will be hired right away.
Right.
But sometimes you look at up and down the NFL. Sometimes you just need a coaching change. You need something to change the culture of what's going on in that locker room, what's going on around your team, and that's.
I mean, if you saw that, you saw that with the Raiders last year. That was 100% was. You had to make the coaching change because it just wasn't there, and the coaching change at the time worked in their favor. I will say this, that I actually think that this is one of those teams that you're going to look at a team that's losing this year, and then everybody's going to be surprised how good they are next year. Because they're literally drafting a couple decent linemen, one corner, right? And they're right back in the game.
Yeah.
So they're a lot closer than you'll realize because of what the body of work will be this year.
Yeah.
And it could be an opportunity. You had a game that happened here. Andy Dalton, he played well and didn't take all the snaps. But Chris Olave got hurt in this game. Went into the concussion protocol, the new Tua rule, which was the guys, obviously down. That went into play this week. There was a lot of it. There was a lot of players. In fact, ironically, Teddy Bridgewater being one of them in the first play of the Dolphins game was out for the game. And they don't know if he actually was in concussion or not, but that when he hit the sideline, there was a stumble, and as soon as they saw a stumble, that immediately required the removal of the helmet. They kept him out for the game. We'll see where that ends up. But it is scary, and I'll tell you, some of these tackling procedures that these guys are doing, because now they don't want to hit everybody straight on. Now they're kind of putting guys in precarious positions, because if you look at that, it's almost like a body slam in a way.
Yeah.
And he's using his momentum to do it. These things are happening because he knows that if he turns and hits him, then he might get called for hitting a defenseless receiver.
And that was a touchdown. So he's not gonna Olave's not gonna put his arms out to brace. Yeah. So he's basically landing on his head with nothing to stop in the blow because he's trying to hold on to the ball.
And guess what? There's no give in the ground.
No, there's not.
So all these concussions, all this stuff that's happening right now, it's from their helmets hitting the actual ground.
Yeah.
It's not going head to head because guys are finally learning, hey, I'm going to get flagged, I'm going to get fined, I'm going to get suspended if we're going helmet to
Or I'm going to hurt myself.
Or I'm going to hurt myself. So they're finally using the shoulders, and now they're flinging them to the ground.
Right.
And you saw it in the Tampa Bay game with Tom Brady. Man, he got flung really hard to the ground. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was
I guess he's being sarcastic because that was probably the worst call that I've seen.
Worst call.
And I was like, that's
on a 3rd and 6 when
that
the Falcons had the Falcons had all the momentum. They just scored 2 straight touchdowns. It's got a 2-point conversion. They just stopped him on 3rd and 6. They were going to get the ball back with just over 2 minutes left on the game, and they called this phantom roughing the passer call. When if I was a coach, I would have took all my clothes off in protest and ran across the field. I'm like, I'm not playing this game no more.
Yeah, because you're clearly trying to give the game to Tom Brady.
Yes.
That was definitely a Tom Brady call. That was definitely one of those things that probably an IOU or...
Tom comes out at the end, well, I don't throw the flags. No, but after the flag was thrown, you were over there talking to him saying, acting like, good job, referee.
Well, I mean, hey, as many years as he's put into the gig, he's got a few things with acting. He does well with it. So, I will say this. The officiating this year has been a lot better than it was the last couple of years. So that's a good start. You're not seeing as many of these crazy tic-tac fouls.
But we need to, they used to have it going back 2 years ago on these pass interference where they allowed you to challenge the pass interference call.
Yeah.
They got rid of it because there was too many, it's too gray area. But they got to, there's got to be something the NFL can do in the last 5 minutes, even just last 5 minutes of the game. All flags should be reviewable. You got to stop this shit from happening. You know how much money's riding on these games?
I know.
Well, and now that the NFL is tied in to the gambling aspect, I think that conversation probably rides a lot deeper.
They have to do something where you can't not decide these games at the last, a flag on a pass interference or a roughing the passer call or some personal foul call.
Yes.
And it happened in the Buffalo Pittsburgh game when Pickett was running to the sideline, gets clobbered by the guy, late hit, they throw the flag, his guy comes over, tries to protect him, hits the guy after that. Now it's offsetting penalties. So you just had a 3rd down and 10. He just ran for the first. They were gonna cover the over by kicking a field goal or scoring a touchdown there. Instead, they march him back another 15 yards and then the incomplete pass and the game's over. It's like, what the?
Now you're out of field goal range.
Yeah, it's like, it ruins everything for I had the over, as you can tell.
We can tell. Very passionate. But you're right, and something needs to be fixed, and hopefully they'll address it at some point. Some of the other stuff that we saw from the weekend, at least for me, the Ravens just kind of keep it moving. They keep the ball moving, and they've figured out a way to really balance out that run-heavy offense.
Yeah, you watch Joe Mixon,
right? And they've kind of figured it out. But the Bengals, right? The Bengals are in trouble. We mentioned Joe Burrow earlier a little bit, but is it Burrow being bad? Is it the offensive line? Is it coaching? What's going on with this team? And I know that you saw something that really stood out.
Yeah, I was watching Twitter, and it's nobody super famous, but it's a guy that just watches a lot of tape on Twitter, and rumors have been going around lately how Joe Mixon has been tipping off the plays. And so now you have people that are watching every single play of every single game, because you can go and do that now.
Yeah.
The internet will.
That's how I see a lot of the quarterback
They
play.
tell you all this stuff, so you go and you can watch every little detail of every little game or every little play that he's in, and you can do that in half an hour, right? Just buzz right through it. So apparently Joe Mixon, when Burrow checks down or checks out of a play, he tips off the play. If he's crouched down a little bit further, that's going to be a passing play, and if he kind of stands up more straight, it's a running play. And there's plenty of examples on Twitter where that happened, where Joe Burrow is changing the play line of scrimmage, and you see Mixon change his body, and it was exactly every time.
And
crouching down was a passing play, and standing up straight was a running play, and then they have still pictures from the week before when they played the Dolphins, and he was doing the same exact thing. Standing up kind of tall when it was a running play, and crouching down almost in a squatting position when it's a passing play. So,
and it goes back to always watching the wide receiver. You see it with the wide receivers on certain pass plays. They put their hands up a little bit higher and getting ready to get off the line. Yeah. And when it's a run play, that's a little bit lower because they know that they're blocking. Yeah. So there's different ways these coaches watch this stuff. So if it's coming out by a guy on Twitter, people knew about it 3-4 weeks ago that were the coaching staff, and they were just keeping a hush hush. Don't say nothing. This is what's going on.
So could you imagine if you're a defensive player, you're Patrick Queen or one of these big guys that they have on the defensive line or a linebacker, and you're watching Mixon, and your job is to watch Mixon. You're knowing the play is coming. Maybe you don't know which side they're running to, but a running play is coming, or a pass play is coming.
Which
so that makes it a
matters
little easier to defend.
It matters a bunch.
And it's also just knowing what pitch is thrown. When you're banging a trash can and know that a fastball is coming, cheating's cheating.
Did they do that this year, though?
We're going back. The Astros.
Because they're still in the playoffs.
We'll save the baseball talk.
We'll
save the baseball talk. But 2 weeks ago, you had the same kind of concept come out of Carolina, where CMC was lining up in front or behind of Baker Mayfield, and it was tipping off whether it was a run or pass play. Let's just say this. The film room is a real thing.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray doesn't know where it's at. Hopefully someone on their campus will show him. The film room is a real thing. It is something that actually needs to be paid attention to. Mm-hmm. And I think not just in the world of the sport itself, but as a bettor and as a collector, I think those things matter, because if you actually watch film on some of these guys, you can actually see things and actually find out if a guy is going to be good or not. You can actually look at this and say this team has this tendency and there's something weird with the bet here. I'll probably stay away from that one.
But what you can do too is if you're Joe Mixon, and obviously this is out now to where
mix it up.
He's hurt right now. He doesn't have to change anything except for mixing up the next game. He doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to come out and make a statement.
Right.
All he has to do is next game, stand up a little taller when it's a passing play and see what happens. And if all of a sudden Jamar Chase is wide open over the middle because the safety was kind of creeping in a little bit, then guess what? Now you have a different game plan. Now it's now they have to go back to the drawing board on your.
Now my thought with the Bengals though is that the offensive line was not very good last year, and they just got lucky and played well.
They got hot at the right time.
They just happened to play good as a unit for 8 games. Just happened to happen.
I just don't think people give a lot of substance to momentum. And I think it's a big thing.
100%.
If you're feeling good about yourself, you're wanting to go to work, and it's with everybody in their industry that they're in. If you're excited about going to work 100%. Every day and you're happy and you're going to do a better job. Yep. You're going to do better. You're going to try harder. You're going to do better. If you're coming in, same thing goes on the football field.
Yep.
If you're excited, you want to be there, you're going to play harder. When you're winning, everything's good. You're the The momentum goes with
100%.
So that's what happened. They got in a good momentum swing.
That's what I'm hoping the opposite happens to the Eagles, because I saw that they're the last undefeated team left.
I want them to go
17-0
and then lose.
But they said
to the playoffs.
The last time that the last undefeated team went and won the Super Bowl was like 2006, I believe. It said Peyton Manning. And they showed the stat the last 10 years that the last undefeated team where they finished, and not one of them was in the Super Bowl. They all lost in the playoffs or didn't make the playoffs.
I mean, there's the thing to be said that the momentum wears off too when a team starts to have success, especially when they create some separation.
Are you talking about the Giants?
I'm just saying in general, when you're talking about that happening, you're usually talking about a team that isn't in a competitive division, that usually is boat racing their division. I can recall, even if you think about it, a few years back, watching Kansas City win the division multiple times, boat race people, and bounced in the first round of the playoffs because they would get complacent. They would, we went 13-3 or whatever it was at the time. The Eagles are a different animal, and I'm going to tell you, the Eagles and their reclamation projects is impressive, right? Because they've taken some guys that we wouldn't have really talked about, like free agency guys that they took in, not bit players, even guys that aren't
on their defense,
full-time players, right?
Yeah.
And they've taken those guys and they absolutely have turned them into perfect for what they do. And then on the flip side, they've taken these draft picks that they've picked up, these guys that they've gotten, and the ones that weren't very good, they got rid of them immediately and filled those spots. And those guys are all playing where they're supposed to. And, Jalen Hurts is able to deliver the ball on time. He's able to run just enough to scare you. And he doesn't run recklessly.
No, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, I think, right now. And I can't wait for next week. They play on Sunday night against the Cowboys.
I think that's a big test for them. If the 100%. Cowboys come in there and they get boat raced by the Eagles, I think it's going to... All the naysayers, because I'm still not fully a believer in this Eagles team. I think their offense is really good. I think their defense can be shoddy at times. Okay. Yeah, it's up and down. So that's not a way to win, though. You want a really good defense or a really good offense. You don't want one that's shoddy, because guess what happens in the playoffs? You're going to run into...
Does anyone here think that Dak is coming back for that game?
No.
Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. You think he doesn't come back?
He does not.
I don't think
Cooper Rush beats the Eagles.
I think Dak is going to be sitting for a little bit. Letting him get 100% healthy.
I don't think you bring Dak back until you lose. You play Cooper Rush until you lose. If you go out there and you beat the Eagles, cool, give Dak another week. You go out there and win again, give him another week. Just keep leaving him on the sideline until you lose. You're still in the mix of it. You're 4-1.
Right.
What are you going to be 4-2? Okay, you're 2 games above 500. You know your defense is the best probably in the NFC. That's probably the best defense in the NFC. Yeah. Better than the Saints, which you guys both thought were going to be really good this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with them.
Still early. It's not over yet.
I've fallen off the defensive train. The defense is a problem there, and
so you don't trust Geno Smith, and he has lit him up because he's good.
No. I think that the Saints defense is. There's a lot of missed assignment. I can go through it. There's a lot of missed assignments. A lot of guys out of position. That it's definitely they've got the talent on the roster, but it's not all put together this year. Last year they put it together. This year maybe they also got complacent, and maybe that will change. I don't know.
I think it was Sean Payton, the coach.
But I will tell you this. I mean, Sean Payton was a pretty good coach. Right. I'll tell you this. You have 4 teams in that division. 3 teams are 4-1 or better. Mm-hmm. And then the Commanders, right? None of us thought the Commanders were going to be very good.
They are who they thought they were.
They're exactly who they thought they were. The Giants keep putting it together. Danny Dimes has these flashes of I'm above the average quarterback. And then he has moments where you're like, okay, he's okay. Saquon is an absolute monster. The scheme that they're running and that they're doing there is winning those games.
It's the same process with the Cowboys. We got a good defense and a good running game. If we stick to the running game and playing good defense, we'll be close in most of the games. We're not going to blow people out, but you know what the problem is playing in close games is it can be really bad once you start losing those close games, like the Raiders. But that's all they do is lose.
But you guys are coming from behind like almost in every game. Like you're getting down by 14 points and then coming back. Like that's the second or third time you guys have done it this year, which is to me is amazing. I don't understand how teams can't stop it. Like you look at the Giants receiving core, and you had like Kadarius Toney who was out, Kenny Golladay out, Sterling Shepard out, Wandale Robinson out. Like they have nobody to throw to, and so it's like, well, we're gonna pound Saquon, and then they still can't stop this. You still can't win.
Well, the big thing is that their defense is keeping the other team off the field. They give up the points, right? They get run down a little bit, they give up the points, and it's almost like they get ticked off. And it's almost as soon as that defense is mad, then you can't move the ball. And that's exactly what I've seen, is that they seem to flip a switch. Whether they flip a switch the entire game or not, they do that, they might actually be pretty formidable.
Well, Thibodeau's he's a real deal, man.
Yes.
That guy, he should have
been number one pick.
He's an Oregon Duck, by the way.
He's the next Micah Parsons.
I said it last year, he was getting disrespected last year.
Yeah, he looks pretty unstoppable on that defensive line. We didn't see him for the first week. He was coming back off of an injury. And so now he's starting to get his legs under him. That guy looks pretty impressive, watching him out there.
I thought he should have been the number one overall pick.
Yeah, I think we all were in the agreement on that.
But I think, I don't know, it's amazing.
The only reason he wasn't the number one overall pick is because of what Utah did to him.
Yeah.
Both times Oregon played them at the end of the season.
Right.
That's the only reason.
The problem when you look at those games, like when you put, say, Oregon up against Utah or BYU, you got at the time he was 18 years old.
He didn't want to play in the bowl game.
So he's 18 years old, 19 possibly at that time, going up against 24, 25, because that's those Utah linemen and the BYU linemen are, guess what? They're grown men. They have kids. They're married. They're 24, 25 years old. So you put him up against those kids, and he's like, oh, hell no, forget this. I don't want to do that. But he's growing into himself. He's a real deal.
Yeah, he's a very good player. I saw that coming out of Oregon. Being a fan, obviously, I paid more attention to what he did on a week-in, week-out basis.
The Giants play the Ravens next week, too, by the way.
So that's a test.
That'll be a very, very
If they
good
win
test.
this game,
Can you stop
then,
Lamar Jackson?
Yes. Can you stop him, play good defense? If they beat them, then okay, I might change my tune about the Giants. I haven't seen anything great about them, but if they beat the Ravens, I have to. They beat Green Bay. They beat the Ravens. They're beating decent teams
Everyone
now.
but the Cowboys.
Well, Cowboys are the best team in the
NFC. Speaking of this, so at this point, Josh Allen, your guys' MVP favorite?
He's gonna run away with it.
Right, gonna run away with it.
Yeah.
If you want any bet right here in the world, take as much money as you have right now. He is gonna win the MVP.
I think it's going to be Mahomes.
You don't think Hurts is going to get
Hurts is in the consideration.
Now, here's the thing. Hurts doesn't have a lot of touchdowns. People don't realize that. He has not thrown hardly any touchdowns for the season.
Hurts will be.
They run the ball in once they get within range.
But he does too.
He runs it in. He gets a bunch on the ground.
So he will be in the consideration. It'll all depend on how his team ends up. So if they end up faltering a little bit at the end, I think he's out of the talks. But the Buffalo Bills, if everyone stays healthy, the Buffalo Bills are going to be there at the end. So that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills maybe lose 1-2 more games tops. Eagles, we'll see. Yeah. I think all of us are kind of surprised. We knew they were going to be good, but 5-0 good.
Waiting and see.
Yeah, I mean, I said that I thought that the Eagles would win the division, but that the Cowboys were the better team. That was my personal opinion.
I think the Eagles win the division as well,
right? And I thought the Cowboys would be the better team. The Cowboys would make the playoffs, and that the Cowboys would make it farther in the playoffs than the Eagles. We'll see if I'm wrong. So far, I would bet against me because I've been 100% wrong. So
you don't want to see my bets.
We've been on a roll, guys. It's time for Jay's Fantasy Roundup. It's a portion of the program where we help you with your fantasy lineups, give you some advice, some tips, some tricks. Jay, what do you got for us this week?
So we'll start off with some injuries. Obviously, the biggest one was the Rashad Penny injury. I feel terrible for this guy, by the way, because he was a first-round pick in Seattle. Everyone was questioning that first-round pick, but the guy is a stud when he plays. Every time he's been on the field, he's so fast and he's so good, and the dude can't stay healthy. So, again, I think it's a broken fibula is what they called it. Originally it was an ankle, but I think it's a broken fibula. He's out the rest of the year.
Gone for the year.
He's going to require surgery. We'll talk about the guy you're going to pick up in the number one waiver wire ad in a second. James Conner also hurt ribs. Benjamin stepped in and took his place when he got hurt against the Eagles. Baker Mayfield, we mentioned earlier, with the ankle sprain. Hopefully he wasn't your starting quarterback in any fantasy league whatsoever, but just in case he was, you need a replacement. Chris Olave is probably going to miss at least a week with the concussion. And Damian Harris with the hamstring injury, that was one that kind of went under the radar, but Ramondre Stevenson came in and had a phenomenal.
And I think both those guys are owned in almost every league. Right?
Yeah, so Stevenson's not even on my waiver wire ad because he's already taken in every league. But for waivers, so Kenneth Walker, we talked about this guy at the beginning of the season. This is the guy that could be a league winner if someone by chance dropped him, because in a lot of leagues he did get picked, right? People sat him on their bench, they said, I'll write it out. But the first 4 or 5 weeks, he didn't do anything.
Right.
So there may be some leagues where this guy got dropped for the other, flavor of the week.
Right.
So if he did, go and look at your waiver wires. He's by far the number one waiver wire ad if Kenneth Walker's out there and available in any of your leagues.
And he looks fast, too.
And he looks fast, yeah. And he's got a lot of breakaway speed.
We talked about that running back core that they have there. Mm-hmm. We kind of talked about they were a year out from really like putting it all together.
Yeah.
But that was going to be the backbone for that team.
And not only that, but the guys they have there in Seattle, they're nice compliments, but they're not anybody that's going to take over a game the way that Kenneth Walker would. Like Travis Homer, DJ Dallas. They just signed Tony Jones off the Saints practice squad. So, they have some, nice compliments, but no one that's going to take over a game the way Kenneth Walker does. So, use all your fab money if you're in a fab league on Kenneth Walker. The other guys I won't put in any particular order, depending on how depleted you are at different positions. But Eno Benjamin is also another good ad for me at running back. Raheem Mostert, if he's available in any leagues, it looks like he's taken over that job over Chase Edmonds in Miami, which I don't know how Edmonds gets beat out by Mostert, who's 31 or 32 years old, but he did. Edmonds has gone down every single week since the season started. Wide receivers, Michael Gallup. It looks like he's back and he's 100% healthy. He made another spectacular catch on the sidelines earlier. Pickens, the guy we just talked about a few minutes ago. Pickett loves him. He's king on this guy. So even though he's a rookie and you say, I don't know if I pick up a rookie receiver, pick up this guy because Pickett loves him.
Well, and the thing is he's going to get the targets and he's going to get you catches. The only thing is he might not get you touchdowns just because they might not have enough push down there, be in the red zone often enough.
But the way their defense looks, you might get a lot of garbage time.
Right, and the garbage time makes it huge. He may be a guy that only has 2 points
in the third quarter, then all of a sudden he ends up with 15 points because of the garbage time in the fourth quarter. 2 more receivers. Rondell Moore, he looks like he's 100% healthy. Greg Dortch was the guy that was picking up the slack while Moore was hurt. Moore's back, and he's getting a huge target share now in Arizona. And then Alec Pierce, a guy I like a lot in Indianapolis. It looks like it's going to be Michael Pittman, and then Alex Pierce is the number 2 guy there, and they seem to be behind every game as well. Tight end wise, Taysom Hill is still marked as a tight end in a lot of these leagues, ESPN, Yahoo leagues, even Dynasty leagues. He's marked as a tight end. Yeah. It's almost like you're getting this bonus player because you can start him in the tight end spot, and you get quarterback and running back numbers out of this guy. So this is like fantasy's least best kept secret is to pick up Taysom Hill and start him in your tight end spot. And then Geno Smith, the guy we talked about before, every week this guy just seems to do it. We talk about how bad Seattle is, but Geno Smith is putting up numbers. And that's what you want in fantasy.
He's putting up Russell Wilson numbers.
And he's better than Russell Wilson.
Right. No, not even that. He is putting up Russell Wilson, Seattle, comparable numbers. He's doing something. So there's something with that offensive scheme that works for that type of quarterback, and it's working for him. And
if you're a team that had either Baker Mayfield or you had Dak Prescott as your starter and now he's out, or you had Tua as your starter and you're kind of going from week to week, go pick up Geno Smith if he's available in your league, because I have confidence in starting this guy. I never thought I'd say that on a fantasy podcast, but I have confidence starting Geno Smith.
What time is this on this podcast? I know, right? I want to keep this on a roll. I have confidence in Geno Smith. I have confidence. I know. And he didn't play. And so that makes you real bad.
Yeah, Taysom Hill looked amazing this weekend. And, Andy Dalton played good. That was the thing, is that Andy Dalton's snaps played good. I don't think Jameis Winston will come back as a quarterback. I think he'll be the backup when he comes back.
The thing that sucks about the Saints, because I have a lot of them in fantasy, is that their injuries are so bad. Like Michael Thomas, another missed game. That's 2 in a row for Michael Thomas after he missed the last 2 seasons. Yep. Jarvis Landry was a last-second inactive, which that actually screwed me in 2 leagues because I was actually at work and all signs pointed to him playing, and so I got no kind of update that he wasn't playing. Right before kickoff, they said he's a surprise inactive, and I didn't have time to go switch him out, so I got goose eggs for Jarvis Landry in those spots. So that burned me. And now Olave's hurt. So, you're down to Marquez Callaway.
Exactly. It's, we'll see where it goes. There's a lot of injuries like that, and then with, as we mentioned, the Tua rule, you're going to see a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I liked this. So my Padres are going to the playoffs, ridden on the back of Joe Musgrove, who was lights out Joe, the all-star caliber pitcher that he had shown that he was. He did. I love this little graphic right here. Here it comes. They advanced to the NLDS. I love seeing that for the Padres. So the Padres knock off the Mets, which I don't think there was any analyst that thought that the Mets would lose to the Padres in this series. They thought they might lose a game. There was no way they thought that they would.
They had 101 wins. They didn't get swept. They're the only ones that didn't get swept.
They did get swept, but you know what I'm saying?
But you literally played 3 games at home, and you only had to win 2 of those 3. You have 2 great pitchers in Scherzer and DeGrom, and you couldn't get it done.
And the Padres came out swinging. They lit up Scherzer to start things off.
Off the bat in the first inning of Scherzer.
And gave good battle to run DeGrom, which is what you have to do. If you got a great arm on the mound, you got to run his pitch count up. Good approach, good game plan. It's fun to see, and I know without Fernando Tatis being there and being kind of like the centerpiece for it, obviously bringing Soto over was huge. Drury, those guys. Josh Bell. Bringing those guys over,
but he helped in the
did.
Playoffs, that's for
he
sure.
did, and he didn't have a great end of the season, but he's a guy that just at any time is going to flip the switch and come through. But I'm excited about the baseball playoffs for the year, obviously because my team is in it, but more because you also get to see, and I'm sorry I clicked the wrong one, we have some teams that you don't normally see on these playoff posters, right? And that is, you got the Mariners over here, you've got the Phillies back in the mix, you got the Guardians, and you got the Padres, and then you got the staples of the Braves, the Dodgers, the Astros, and the Yankees. There's some interesting matchups here. Obviously, the Guardians and the Yankees, I think that most people are saying the Yankees win that series. They didn't score any runs hardly against the Rays. The Rays have a really good pitching staff. And for them to go out and be even better, that's something to say. Pitching does win in the playoffs. If you recall, do you remember when the White Sox won the World Series last and they went 4 complete games in the World Series to win it? Mm-hmm. And the pitching was what got hot at the end of the year and what did it. That's how the Guardians got in to the playoffs. I don't know if you're the Yankees, you're as excited to draw the Guardians today as you might have been, say,
are you?
A month before.
What is this series? How does the series shake out? Like Yankees win in what?
If we don't sweep them, I'll be very surprised.
Okay. So Yankees sweep against them.
Is this series 3 out of 5? Is it best 3 out of 5 in this series?
I think all NLDS or I think all.
Is it 7 out of 7?
Yeah, it should be 7-game series.
I think after the first one was 3.
Yeah.
I think everything's 7.
Because they've changed the playoff format's all changed this year.
Right. That's why I was asking. I was curious. So Yankees win in 4. Okay.
Yeah, to be honest with you, like they have no match for us. We have way better hitting. We have way better pitching. We will destroy this team.
Is Rip here?
And I hope he's here. I think. Well,
he is.
I'll tell you this: on the starting end, I think you match up well. Tristan McKenzie. You said it last year. He's a very, very good arm.
Great arm.
And he has been very good. And I wouldn't count Bieber out at any point. He's been a perennial Cy Young candidate and strikeout leader.
We're only going to be as good as, and I'm just joking with winning 4. We're only going to be as good as Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's our ace. He's our guy that we went out and spent $150 million on. If Garrett Cole pitches like...
And you're matching Bieber up against him, right?
Yeah. So if Garrett Cole goes out and pitches like the old Garrett Cole or the guy that pitches in the playoffs, we're going to lose. We'll lose this series. But we're only going to go as far as he takes us.
We'll see how that turns out. I think the lineup, I don't think we're worried about as far as they're going to put up some runs. It's whether it's enough,
Yeah. It's up to Garrett Cole.
Do you have any side wagers with Jimmy?
I haven't seen him yet. I'm sure we'll get something down. Before.
I would love to have like a whole show after the series is over, just them talking.
Where are we at on the Astros and the Mariners? Mariners.
I'm pulling for the Mariners.
Got in
of course
late,
you are.
Right?
Of course you are.
We said that there was a chance the Mariners could have the best lineup in baseball at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. We talked about how deep it could be, right? Obviously, they did some really nice things. In fact, we were talking about the game the other night that, they walked Julio right? They walked Julio to face Ty France, which blew my mind. Now it worked in the favor at the time in the game, but that's not going to happen all the time. It's not going to work out that way.
No, I think that Houston is too seasoned to lose to the Mariners, just like the Yankees will probably beat the Guardians. Everyone wants to see the Yankees and the Astros meet up in the AL Championship Series, the ALCS. That's the matchup everyone wants, and I'm not saying they're gonna, the umpires are gonna sway it that way, but that's the matchup everyone wants. Everyone wanted to see the Dodgers and Mets, and look what happened. The Mets got ran out of their own stadium, and now it's the Padres, which now I know you're a Padres fan. Yeah. I don't think the Padres have any chance against the Dodgers.
I'm just pissed we don't get to see Timmy Trumpet no more.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pissed about.
No Timmy Trumpet. I think that this actually favors the Mariners. I think that the Astros are probably in trouble here. I think that they didn't want this lineup to be coming in. And the reason being is because they can't match up offense for offense. And that showed later in the year that these young arms, that the Mariners have are actually good. And no one's watched any of the Mariners games except for the highlight on the 10 o'clock Sports Center. Right? But these guys actually pitch. They're actually really good. And I get Verlander is Verlander, and Framber has been amazing, right, this year. And both those guys they should pitch well. But at the end of the day, I actually think that the Mariners match up well with this team. Even though they didn't win the division, I think they match up well. They turned it on at the end of the season.
We always say, though, we've been saying this since day one, is you never want to play the team that doesn't know they shouldn't be there.
100% with
the Mariners team.
That's the Guardians.
Them too. You never want to play the Guardians. You never want to play the Mariners. Why? Because they're so young and they don't realize that they shouldn't be in this situation. So you don't want to play them because guess what? Those are the people that shock them.
Yeah, their pitching is definitely gonna at least. I think it's going to surprise some people. I think they're going to pitch better than maybe the general viewer might think, and I think it might surprise. I don't know. I think it might be worth putting some money on the Mariners to win this series.
They are plus,
and I would
plus
say
195.
Yeah. So I feel like there might not be a bad play to put a little bit of money on them and see where it goes, because there's a chance to see something special happen there. Phillies, Braves, that is going to be an absolute slugfest. And when I say slugfest, it's not going to be hitting. It's going to be a slugfest of who manages better, who pulls some things off, and whose superstars stand taller. Spencer Strider just got a $75 million extension, deserved. And obviously, they got the hometown discount with that kid. The rest of the staff is very good. Max Fried is obviously an incredibly good arm. Nola's not bad himself over with the Phillies. I think that offensively, I actually think I'm going to tip the scale a little bit to the Phillies right now. I think the Phillies are the team that if they're down, they're a team that can score a whole bunch of runs in a very short period of time on you.
I just think that when I look at it, it's more of a who is built for that 3-game series that we just saw with the wild cards, and who's built for the 4-game series. And I think that's when you're going to see teams like Houston rise to the top, and you're going to see the Braves rise to the top, and you'll see the Yankees, and you'll see Houston Dodgers. Yeah. So those 4 teams, and I know those are the 4 favorites, but they're built for those 4-game series. Like what we saw in the wild card division, it was nice, but I think the Phillies had a great 1-2 punch, and they almost lost that first game when Yepes came in and hit the 2-run home run to put them up 2-0, and then the Phillies came back and answered with 6.
Got lucky to come back.
That was, to me, I blame the manager for that. I blame Marmol for that, because I can't remember the pitcher that came in right before their closer, but they brought the closer in for a 5-out save, who had been struggling. The guy that they pulled out right before that, he was pitching well. Why not just let that guy finish that inning out? Let him finish that inning out.
The Mets did it the other night, and it almost cost them.
Bring in the closer for the last, because you know what happened is that closer that threw 99 miles an hour, he got the first out and the second out, And then at the start of the next inning, he got the first out. And then guess what happened? It was walk city from here on out. It was walk, base hit, walk, hit by pitch. Like, he was built for that 3-out, and I know he's gotten 5-out saves in the past.
And that's where I'm saying that the management comes into play. Is I think in that Braves-Phillies series, it's going to come down to who manages the back end of the game better, right? Because I'm telling you now, like you saw them do, you give a little bit of leeway to that Phillies team, and there's some scrappy guys on that team.
Yeah.
And it's led by Bryce Harper and Schwarber, and those guys they're the blue-collar players of the Major League Baseball. They're the guys that throw their construction hat on and make their lunch before they go to work. That's who they are, and they never quit. They never quit, and that you always worry about a team like that. But with that said, the pitching that the Braves have and what they've shown, now there's a good chance that might be the best staff left in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the Braves win because I hate the Dodgers, and I don't want to see the Dodgers advance. And I think that Braves have the best chance of beating the Dodgers.
Does anybody think the Padres have a chance?
No.
So I'm going to say, because I'm a fan, I have a little bit of it, and that's going to be if Joe Musgrove can go out. He doesn't have to repeat the outing he had, but if he can keep him in games in the position that he was in, and Tony Gosselin pitches like we think he is and not who he has been this season.
Can we get you to pick the Padres right now on the podcast?
No, well, I should, because then they'll win. So yes, absolutely. Because
so you're going Padres?
Sure, why not? Because I'm not going to go against the Dodgers, and then just be honest, I hate the Dodgers.
I do
hate six. I do hate the Giants more, but I absolutely dislike the Dodgers a lot.
We will be in San Diego this weekend. They are playing Friday. We are definitely going to try to make the game. We got to figure out what time it is, because we both have Colton and Steve, both huge Padre fans, so we'd love to at least go to a game.
And none of you guys are Dodgers fans, right? None of the team is, or no?
Jimmy will definitely wear a Dodgers jersey.
You guys,
I'm not getting beat up.
I was saying, you guys better make sure you don't get shit.
Not getting beat up.
You're wearing a Dodgers jersey. Now you're gonna have to protect these guys.
Yeah. No, thank you.
But no, I mean, you know what? Let's be honest. That team got a whole bunch of salary added to it of players that are supposed to be big for big moments, and we're gonna see. Maybe it works out, and if it does work out, then the front office is going to say, yeah, it's what we thought would happen the whole time.
Well, the usual Padres towards the end of the season would have collapsed, wouldn't have made the playoffs. It's a different team.
It is.
They stepped up towards the end of the year. They won the games that they had to win. Yeah. They made the playoffs, and then they won a first round against nobody thought they were going to beat the Mets with that
no
staff.
Way they thought
Nobody was saying the Padres was going to beat the Mets. No. So now you're going to give them the Dodgers?
Okay. Now the Dodgers have had the Padres number big time this year.
They destroyed them the last.
Yes, that's what I'm worried about.
But it also, I think it's maybe come to a point too with the Padres though that sometimes the bully pushes you enough and you finally decide to push back. Maybe they'll push back.
Look, I'm all for it.
And if they do,
I would love
that's what we'll see.
Juan Soto has not played well, and he's way too good to not play well. So
and that's the thing is when that happens. When that happens and you have him and you have a guy like Cronenworth who even hasn't quite come through like he has in the past, these are guys that, like, if they flip the switch, a couple of them get it going. The fight's there.
Please do.
We'll see, and we'll see what happens.
Please do.
So
and don't we'll look more.
We'll look more into it.
Oh, it's in San Diego.
Oh, it's in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's not in LA. Yeah.
It's time for Plus or Minus. We're going to talk a little bit of investment. It's not a ton of time on it this week, but we are going to talk a little bit about a couple things, and it's pretty simple. We're going to roll off the conversation we had at the beginning of the show, which is talking about how the marketplace is and stuff. Right now, the modern stuff is so volatile that you're seeing guys in cards, especially cards that were today are $100 were $600 6 months ago, right? The one pieces in the market you're not seeing that happen to are your staple players, the guys that are established. See, everybody wants to get in on what's the hot new flavor of the week. This week it's Gabe Davis. Next week it'll be, right? Like, by the way, we were advanced on Gabe Davis. We had already said it. But when we come down to it, you've got guys, you got the basketball season coming up, and everybody wants to start forecasting what's it going to be. Now, Jimmy and I talked. We've already starting to see the values on Zion increasing. The Zion uptick is there. That's a real thing, and I don't think Zion's at the bottom. He's coming from a very low point. when you're talking that he's down about 75% of what his market was prior to the boom. Right? We're talking about before the pandemic. But guys like LeBron James, and your immediate move is to move into the rookie card. You know, you want to look at the rookie card. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out and buy a LeBron rookie. That's where it's going to be safe. That's where it is. But what most people don't realize is you get to like a LeBron rookie, or you get yourself into like a Curry rookie here, and you get yourself into something nice, something that's exciting, something that's going to – these cards are going to hold value.
Yeah.
They're not going to have any uptick for you. They're not going to have those boom numbers for you. And sometimes in the hobby, you kind of want those ones that give you that quick, oh, wow, that card went up 40%. There's still opportunities to do it with these type players. Where it is, though, is in the marketplace with the golds of 10, the numbers to 5, or the product that a guy doesn't sign in, or even if it's a late LeBron auto, going out and getting one of the later LeBron autos out of a product that was licensed to pick that up over, say, something. Because what it is that you've got these high pop counts, and even if 300 to 400 cards at a PSA 10 for a LeBron Chrome rookie, sure, 300 or 400 doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It's enough to be out there that they're cycling on auction all the time.
You see them more often.
They're always available to buy. Find the cards that aren't available. Go find that stuff. That's where you're going to have the biggest upside. LeBron goes out, wins a score, and has all-time leader in points. Those cards are going to increase in value. And exponentially, they're going to go up greater than what his rookie might go because his rookie's more available in the marketplace. So look for those opportunities. And I'm using basketball because we're getting into basketball now. We can start talking about some of the plays in basketball because the rookie class for this year, unfortunately, had a huge hit with the Chet Holmgren going down. That was a huge hit. Really, the last year's rookie class is the buy because they weren't there before. But you can look at opportunities with these players of picking up some of these parallels, picking up, you know, the Genesises and the stuff like that are in the modern card base that are still fairly affordable, and grab that stuff and put it in. I think you'll have an opportunity to make some money off of it there. Just be aware, pop counts are a real thing when it comes to grading. And a lot of times guys don't look at what the pop count is, and all of a sudden you get in and you look at some, you know, there's Acuna rookies out there that have 3,500 to 4,000 PSA 10s graded in circulation.
So it's great to have a PSA 10, but when you have 4,000 in circulation, it's going to drive the price
down. So why don't
down.
you go get a second or third year orange to 25, which is going to have a greater play. He goes off in the playoffs. There you go.
Right.
We already know Acuna's got a good market and he's a safe play in baseball. So there you go. So that's where I'm going with this. I'm not saying don't buy the rookie. I'm saying pay attention to where you have an opportunity to make some money, and I think that's where it's at.
I like it.
Guys, we'll be at Del Mar next week, which means no huddle next week because Monday will be a travel day for us. So we will not be on next week. We do appreciate you guys. We will recap it, though, when we come back in 2 weeks. Otherwise, come see us in shop. We've got a bunch of cool product coming out this week. Yeah, Heritage Baseball, Tops Update was coming out. Collegiate NT?
Archives.
Yep. Yeah, so you got some stuff coming out, guys. So check us out there. Of course, we'll be on Whatnot and both getting some stuff in the Breaks group together. The Breaks group probably be slow this week. Figure an uptick next week when we're back from Del Mar and kind of back to business in shop. But if there's anything we can do for you guys, let us know. And, if you want to submit your cards to PSA, you can now do that through the website. Just go on the website, fill out the information, drop them to us, or drop them by the shop, and we'll get it taken care of for you.
Until next time.
Let's go.